We're going to start assembling now, but there are a few different ways to do it. There are two ways to do it: either you build the barrel complete at the top first, or you build the wheel train bridge on the left first. For this SP36, either way is fine. However, for beginners, it's easier to avoid mistakes if you build the barrel bridge first, so I'd recommend building the barrel complete first, then the center wheel and pinion, followed by the gear train support. The barrel complete is assembled after it has been cleaned up like this, so be careful when assembling it. When assembling, the center wheel and pinion is assembled at the same time, so I would like to introduce the lubrication of the barrel complete and center wheel and pinion under the microscope before assembling them. First, please watch the lubrication process for the barrel complete. There is always a gap between the barrel and the barrel complete, so pour D5 oil into that gap. Now, I will show you how to pour the oil from the tip of the oiler into the gap. I think you can see the moment when the oil flows into the gap using the capillary phenomenon. We will repeat the current operation at the other end. We will be careful not to spill the oil from the tip of the oiler. Now that we have lubricated the barrel complete on each side, we will do the same for the barrel complete on the main plate side. The one in the center of the screen is the barrel arbor on the main plate side. There is always a gap between the barrel and the lid, so we will pour D5 into this space. There is also a gap on the other side of the barrel, so pour D5 into this gap as well. Once the oil has been poured into the gaps like this, the lubrication process is complete, so we will now lubricate the Stafford before assembly. As you can see the bottom pivot side of the barrel, I've moved the D5 around half a turn to apply oil here. The corner hole side of the barrel god also needs lubrication, so we will lubricate it at this time. The barrel god is thick, so we will repeat the lubrication in several stages. This is the lubrication of the barrel complete. The center wheel and pinion is lubricated at the same time as the barrel complete. The center wheel and pinion has two places that need oiling, but it's a little hard to see, so I'll point them out with the oiler for now. This is the exact part. The tip sticks out from the base plate, and the base is a pinion, so please be careful not to let the oil flow onto the pinion or the tip. First, apply D5 to the lower pivot side of the center wheel and pinion for about half a turn. Now that the lubrication is complete, we will assemble the barrel complete and center wheel and pinion. First, set the barrel complete, then set the center wheel and pinion, and then lower it while looking for the position of the barrel support. As a guide to finding the right position, check that the positions of the barrel shaft and setting lever screw match up with the barrel support. If you do this, you should be able to find the right position easily. If you leave it like this, it will wobble, so we'll install 2 fixing screws. First, we'll just tighten them temporarily. After lightly tightening them, we'll secure them properly. The center wheel and pinion is turning when the tip of the barrel complete is moved, so it is normal. The winding stem also moves smoothly. Next is the third wheel and pinion. The third wheel and pinion is relatively easy. When viewed from the side, the pinion should be on top. The pinion is this small silver-colored gear. This small gear is placed on the base plate so that it is on top when viewed from the side. The third wheel and pinion is placed next to the center wheel and pinion. Next is the fourth wheel and pinion. The fourth wheel and pinion is naturally next to the third, and the ruby is in this part, but the lower pivot of this fourth wheel and pinion is slightly at the base of this long, thin axle. This is particularly difficult after it has been assembled. I recommend lubricating the base before assembly. Apply the lubricant in the same way as when you applied D5 to the base of the center wheel and pinion earlier. I recommend lubricating the base before assembly. I'd like to show you again under the microscope, so please take a look. Now I'm taking a picture of the fourth wheel and pinion from the side. The part where the oil is applied is here, at the base of the long shaft. We'll apply lubrication here. The oil we use is 9010 or AO2. Apply some AO2 or 9010 to the base of this thin shaft. This amount of oil is fine. The hole in the ruby is basically small, so you need to carefully observe the hole and the thin axle to make sure they match up. Now that we've placed it well, when you lightly turn the center wheel and pinion, third wheel and pinion, and fourth wheel and pinion, they will turn. You don't have to force the gears to turn. As long as each gear is standing vertically, the assembly up to this point is okay. We will install the train bridge here. The train bridge has rubies in the center wheel and pinion, third wheel and pinion, and fourth wheel and pinion, so if the position of these and the position of the axle underneath match up, you can lower it down. It should be easy to understand if you match the shape of the wave when viewed from above. This time, there are only 3 gears, so it should be relatively easy to install. To check whether you've got it in or not, gently turn the edge of the center wheel and pinion. When you turn it, the third wheel and pinion and the fourth wheel and pinion will turn in conjunction with the center wheel and pinion. If you can confirm this, it is proof that the upper and lower shafts have been inserted, so you can tighten the 3 screws. Tighten them, but tightening all 3 at once is dangerous, so please tighten them in order, checking as you go. First, tighten one of the bolts lightly. The standard for tightening lightly is to stop when the screwdriver becomes stiff. The gears are still turning, so tighten the other 2 in the same way. It's dangerous to tighten them all at once, so stop when they stop turning and stop applying force. I'll check again. I could see the center wheel and pinion, third wheel and pinion, and fourth wheel and pinion turning. Of course, the barrel complete is also turning, so it is okay to have the 3 screws tightened. I hope everyone has been able to follow the instructions so far. The power of the gear train is applied to the fourth wheel and pinion, so we will now assemble the escape wheel and pinion. The escape wheel and pinion is very thin, so be careful when working with it. First, install it next to the fourth wheel and pinion. Use a magnifying glass to check whether it has been inserted or not. If you touch it with tweezers and can confirm that the lower axle is not misaligned, then you can place the escape wheel and bridge on top, as this is proof that the lower axle has entered the hole jewel. When placing the escape wheel and bridge, it probably won't go in at once, so use both hands. Slowly hold down the top of the escape wheel and bridge with the bar you are holding in one hand. At this time, the escape wheel and bridge are not vertical, and are leaning at an angle. Naturally, the ruby that comes on top cannot be inserted, so in order to fix this, I hold it down with one hand and use tweezers in the other hand to find the correct vertical alignment. The tweezers don't go in very far, and often you don't even know whether they're vertical or diagonal, so please fix the escape wheel and bridge below without rushing. If you press down too hard with your left hand at this point, it will be difficult to make the escape wheel and bridge vertical, so please support it from below with just the right amount of pressure when you press down. This work is actually sometimes difficult to see with a loupe, so ideally you should use something with a high magnification, like a microscope, to find the correct vertical alignment. However, I don't think you'll find a microscope easily, so use your naked eye and a magnifying glass. Please insert the upper pivot called the upper pivot of the escape wheel and bridge into the ruby of the escape wheel and bridge. We talked about using a high-powered magnifying glass or microscope to check whether it has gone in or not. While using the microscope, I'm going to hold the gold part of the gear below and look for the correct vertical alignment. I just heard a click. You could see the top pivot of the escape wheel and pinion in the center of the hole in the ruby. So I tried turning the center wheel and pinion. It was linked to the second barrel and train wheel bridge. I could see that the third and fourth wheels and pinions were turning, so I could physically and visually confirm that the upper pivot of the escape wheel and pinion was engaged. So, it's okay to have the screw on the side of the escapement wheel tighten gently. We will now move on to the work on the handheld camera. When you see the center wheel and pinion and the escape wheel and pinion working together, tighten the screw on the escape wheel and pinion. Once you have done this, check it again. Now that the escape wheel and pinion are also connected, tighten the screws holding the escape wheel and pinion in place. Now that we have confirmed that the upper and lower shafts of all the gears are in place, and that we have been able to fully tighten all the screws, the assembly up to this point has been a success.